Listen, we need to talk about this last episode of Sister Wives. Not for what was in it, but for maybe what wasn't in it. Or maybe what was revealed. Or maybe the spiciness that I didn't see. Or perhaps the fact that in the summer of 2025, up until the day that Janelle went to a group of men who are criminals at a church that is illegal, with men that have multiple wives, from a man that has a wife suing him to get a release from Kody. A piece of paper declaring this man had the power to sever eternal bond with someone. Can you even imagine someone thinking they have that kind of control? Can you imagine a mortal human being believing they have the power to sever an eternal connection with someone? Does that mean this person thinks they're God? And listen, I know that Mary got this release and Janelle got the release, but you know what really doesn't sit well with me? Is that there's no counter to how silly these releases are. How silly it is for Janelle to go back to a church that she hasn't been at in more than a decade. Hasn't believed in that church in more than a decade. A church that has had accusations of child SA and a former leader up until 2021 who had been accused by multiple people. A daughter and some of his nieces of SA. A church that had literally kicked them out. A church where Lemoyne Jensen sat on the platform in front of the entire church and told Kody that his family was cursed. That he had a prophecy from God. That going public would destroy his family. And that he was not doing it for the right reasons. And the church cut ties. They were not excommunicated. They were not dismissed. But they were done. Mary was active with the church until about 2016, where she was still doing some youth groups. But Janelle hadn't been in this church since like 2010. And to think that Janelle, who has gone through an actual legal divorce, would think that a man who is currently being sued by his wife for fraud and trying to take her property from her and her due share in the property that she put money into. That woman, that man who has had multiple women leave him and has abandoned several women and his first wife, he left him before he went into polygamy. That guy had the power to cut off and say, your marriage was divorced. But you didn't know you were divorced before then, even though she didn't live in the same state as Kody and had left Kody in 2022. We need to talk. 'Cause he kept saying, I thought you'd be more mad. I'm sort of really I thought you'd be harder or something. And I'm like, why? I just don't care. I think he doesn't know who we are. They can have their little life over there, Happy, yes. Hope so, hope so. 'Cause I am. I'm good with what I'm doing too. Now trust me, it doesn't make me happy to say this about Janelle, but Janelle takes a moral high ground with her faith and with her intelligence, and she seems to try to maybe deflect accountability and responsibility for her choices by saying she's logical. She's very smart, she has to tell everyone she's very smart and she's very logical. Because I feel like if you're simp smart and logical, you really don't have to say that, right? You just are that. And Janelle has said now to Christine, now to Mary, and to her friends that Kody and Robin can have each other as though she's giving ownership of Kody to Robin. And it's odd to me. Because if she's done with Kody, she shouldn't care if Kody stays with Robin. She shouldn't care if Kody and Robin maintain a relationship or don't maintain a relationship. She should just be done with Kody because she's done with Kody. But part of me feels like if Kody hadn't played favorites, and if Kody had just kept whatever equality she had been okay with before, which wasn't very good to begin with, she would have stayed. I think each of their differences for leaving were each one of them had different reasons for leaving, right? And I think they each had different breaking points. I think for Christine, she did not believe in the religion anymore. She didn't believe in the church anymore. She was done with it. And once Kody cut off physical connections with her, she had no reason to stay because she didn't believe in the faith. Kody cut off their intimate interaction. He stopped being there for her children. He wasn't there for her daughter's surgery. He didn't show up for her kids or her girls when they needed her. She was relegated as sort of the not formal wife for the entirety. Same with Janelle. But her stance was, well, Kody doesn't want me, and I don't want to be second best. I don't want to stay in a sad place, and he gets to have happiness, and I don't. I'm out. And her breaking point, she says, was when Kody doesn't show up for Isabel in surgery. And in COVID, she learns that she can actually do all of this on her own. Mary gets a divorce, a legal split in 2015. I think at this point, she might have wanted to leave him, but she doesn't. She stays in a loveless marriage for 8 years as Kody leads her on. And for Mary, Her choice to leave comes with her not wanting to continue to stay in a loveless marriage where there was no hope for reconciliation, where she knew that it was never, the family unit was already dissolving and it wasn't going to be dissolved. She had this trust in her faith and this commitment in her faith. And even in this show, she made a comment about how she was 19 and she had felt like she needed to stay committed to a decision she had made when she was 19. And it took her a long time to let go of that and understand she didn't have to stay committed to a choice she had made when she was essentially a kid. She could move on. And so, she moves on when Kody's made committed to a choice she had made when she was essentially a kid. She could move on. And so, she moves on when Kody's made clear that he doesn't want her. But in truth, I don't know that Mary was really trying to reconcile with Kody outside of what we were seeing on the show, right? Mary leaves the church. She doesn't believe in it anymore. And then Kody takes her wealth from the sale of her home and gives it all to Robyn so Robyn can have a mansion. And then tries to say after don't giving so much of her money to the family that she would only get 2 acres on Coyote Pass. And he said she could just, that's what she got, regardless, even though she was the one that helped pay off the land. She was done. She was done being used by Kody and she sort of woke up to the games that they were playing. And at that point, she was done. And she almost immediately took steps the minute she walked out the door and she got got cut right away. And she got a release. But Janelle was different. Janelle only left after a fight and she didn't really even leave after a fight. They had a big public fight. There was never on camera a talk that it was over. Nothing. She didn't even really recognize that it was over to Kody. So, they have a big fight around Christmas. It's related to the kids. It's Kody telling her she needs to be more like Robyn, be more obedient, and be more submissive. She's angry because she gave money, her own property from her home in Vegas, to Kody and Robyn as well. Kody won't build her house on Coyote Pass. She won't get family money for it. He won't pay off the house. And she's living in an apartment at this point. And Kody's living in a house. And she has children that are completely separated from him and he's bullying them. And so she doesn't talk to Kody, but for months doesn't say that they're over, just says that they had a fight. Then doesn't really have an official fight talk with Kody that they're over. And up until last season, Kody was trying to reconnect with her. Up until practically the end of 2024, Kody was trying to reconcile with her, even though she had moved to North Carolina. Even though she started moving to North Carolina in 2023 and didn't live in the same state as him longer, she still considered herself with Kody up until the release of her marriage. So, she didn't live in the same state as him. She hadn't kissed him in like 3 years. They were still only mentally bound, right? But I kind of felt like based on some of the statements she's made about how they can have him or she can have them, they can have each other, that had Kody come to his senses and realize that she could be her, and he could be him, and they didn't have to be like Robyn, that it would get back to normal, and that she would go back. And I think that's why it took her 3 years to get a spiritual release. But it's still wild that she went to get a spiritual release and couldn't just say that their marriage was over when it was over. It was obvious it was over. But what this show taught me was that Janelle didn't think her marriage was over. She considered herself married to Kody until Dave Watson said she was released, which is wild given Janelle's a logical and pragmatic person. I just there's too many things I got to get the farm going. I really need to there's some things I just want before I even think about it. Obviously, your life experiences shape you, and even though I'm officially only divorced a few hours, it feels like I've endorsed a lot longer than that. If I run into somebody, I meet somebody naturally, sure, I'm interested, but I definitely won't be rushing to marriage. Alright, Janelle has been this year defending polygamy to the point that she has even said that polygamy should be legal. Men should be able to have as many formal marriages as they want, because then no man would treat a wife badly. She has supported polygamy. She has said that she would live it again, but she doesn't live in a place where it's an option for her because she's not near a culture of polygamy. She says she still believes in it. And so she's here in 2025, this is the summer, saying that she feels she's single now, and just divorced a few hours. Okay? She was never married to Kody, ever. And I say this as a woman that is married, that believes in the sanctity of marriage, the promise of marriage, and the legality of marriage. She never was formally recognized, connected, or ever married to Kody. Never. She joined a made-up religion led by a group of gross pedophile cult leaders who bartered and traded their daughters and believed she would get into the celestial kingdom and bought into it because she said it was self-development and believed them when they told her that she was married to Kody. Even though she wasn't. Brainwashing is very serious and she's been married before, so she should know better. And I'm not here to slam anyone and say that, this is, anything other than not valid. Yes, she had a connection with Kody, an illegitimate one. She partnered with a man who was married. She stayed with a man who she got with a man who was already married officially. And she said that the formal marriages never mattered. But they do. She watched him divorce his first wife and then officially marry his fourth wife, never to marry her legally, never once, never binding her in any sort of commitment like that. And yet, she still thought she was married when he never married her, and he never married Christine. Christine and Janelle were always concubines in Kody's eyes. And I know that people don't like it when I say that, but that's what they're called in their church. That's what they're called in their faith. They're the women that have less legal standing than the legal wife, and they are essentially maids. And it's sad that she's so confused that she says now that, she hasn't been with him since 2022, and now she's only been divorced for a few hours. I wish so much that TLC would allow a counter-narrative, you know what I mean? Where it wasn't just like, we should just accept this. Because I think it's dangerous that we accept the idea that a church can say you're married and a man has multiple wives when it's not true. And that a woman feels like she needs to get a release from a criminal group to be free. This isn't an anger with Janelle. It's an anger at the system. And these types of churches deserve no place in our society. They don't deserve to be a part of the wider public. They are dangerous to women and children. And if this show has taught us anything, it is that polygamy is harmful to women and children cruel. It forms a pecking order. It causes inequity and division. The women turn on each other and start fighting. They get jealous of one another. They think that their eternal fate is connected to a man, so they can't leave or date. Even Janelle saying she's not going to rush into dating. I would hardly say she's jumping into anything because she hasn't been with Kody since 2022. Rushing in would have been having a boyfriend in 2022, right? But she's still brainwashed. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad that this kind of church exists and that TLC has made it popular. Even giving it like, oh, we should accept the legitimacy of a spiritual release. No, we should be recognizing how abusive it is that she even had to go to a guy and ask for a release. And it's cruel to tell a woman that's not a wife that she's a wife. And it's cruel to tell a woman that in order to get to heaven, she has to allow her husband to share and have other women. And that in doing so, she'll become a better person. It's abusive to tell a woman that she will only be able to become better if she can get over her jealousy and deal with the pain and endure it, and then she'll get into heaven and then she'll become a goddess in a kingdom. That's rude. And I just hope that with distance and time and room, Janelle can wake up. But I find it really troubling that Janelle is giving people advice and having people pay for her to be a life coach, when she is clearly still so indoctrinated and so brainwashed and so clearly misguided. I hope she gets help. I hope she gets help. I hope if she's done with the show, she is done and she walks away. But I hope this is like a moment for all of you to realize that none of this is for the greater good. All of these women are victims. Even Robin. And this has just been a colossal experiment that has failed and revealed abuse while making it popular to be a polygamist when it should never be popular. So, what are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.